Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Z-Day Cardiff. We all know in this country we say Z-Day to stop obeying and following the American chapter. Z-Day Cardiff. Just like to say hello to all the Zeitgeisters watching online. You know, you guys are too lazy to actually turn up at one of the events, so hello, how are you? It's good to see a few hippies in the crowd as well, some long hair, beards, dreadlocks. Go hippies. What I'm going to do today is take you on a very personal journey through my experience as an activist with the Love Police for the last 22 months, almost 2 years. And if this talk has a title, let it be Revolution, Consciousness, and Lucid Dreaming. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And all hail the morning star as he appears in the east. Yeah, Venus, we all know, guys. We all know. Actually, don't be fooled by the clothing. It's Lucifer himself here. So you know. Okay, I'm going to take you all on a journey, a very personal journey through my life as an activist, how it started off, you know, it started a big personal discovery for myself, because I think in terms of the activism I do, it is very personal. It's my spiritual awakening, which I'm putting on YouTube for everyone to enjoy and share. And I make various mistakes. I say lots of stupid things, which land me in a lot of trouble from time to time, but it's very important to make these mistakes. So tonight I hope to convince you all of the duality of good and evil, of light and dark, of one and zero, of man and woman, of yin and yang that we all live in. That there is good and evil, and I know a lot of you guys don't believe in evil, but just bear with me here. Think of this as you're watching a play, and the actor believes in evil, so you just got to go along with it. I'm going to take you through how evil exists, and that's why we're all here. You guys are here as people interested in Zeitgeist or Zeitgeist members, because you know something is very wrong with the corporate slave ship we are currently sailing on, and I'm a bit of an extremist myself. I want there to be massive and total collapse of the slave ship, because I don't believe it is sustainable in any way. So, to get us in the right mood, enough of me babbling on here, let's watch The Opiate of Peace, just to get you all in the right mood for my talk about good and evil and the duality and so forth. So,
Sound coming?
it should do.
Oh no, I think it'll come. It's coming. It's just, I think it's a quiet start.
It's a nice sign, but holding a sign doesn't do anything. I suggest thinking of what it would be like to be the evil people in power. You look out your window and see a big sign. You chuckle inwardly and go back to planning how you can profit from killing more people. Protests are not revolution. Holding signs and wearing t-shirts is not fighting. It's masturbation. It's whining. It's cowardly. It doesn't do anything. If holding signs was effective against the power, then our military would send swarms of unwashed, sign-waving hippies and stoned t-shirt sporting rastas to make a difference. They don't. They use bullets and bombs. Signs are for armchair revolutionaries and weekend rebels. They can wave their sign, and although deep down they know they haven't actually done anything at all, they can be high and mighty to their yuppie friends and say, I was there, man. I'm actually trying to make a difference. I'm doing something. Nobody cares about public opinion. Nobody cares what the cattle thinks. It hasn't mattered since the advent of television, and even demonstratively much before then. Signs and protests look good. They look fun, but nothing is actually changing at all. Protests mattered when people were willing to pick up guns, or spears, or whatever the hell was close enough to them to bludgeon the poor SOB that intended to take their life or liberty. I suggest looking into the Vietnam resistance, not that hippie crap that didn't change anything. I'm talking about the soldiers that threw hand grenades on their commanding officers. Read Soldiers Revolt, and you'll see what I mean. Talk about idea that the very mention of violence is something bad. And as soon as you mention the very word, that means that you're interested in taking offensive action and going out and terrorizing people, going out and killing people. This is how programmed and pacified they are. I have never said anything of the sort. I have said that one must prepare for violence. So long as men have free will, there will always be warfare. There will always be fights. The only way that you will ever get your little Garden of Eden is when we turn into the Borg. And they have the plans to turn us into the Borg. Read The Age of Spiritual Machines by Ray Kurzweil, who is Illuminati. And here he is, yippee skippy. There's going to be a time where we can plug our minds into each other. We can communicate together as one single mind. Yes, that's so great, isn't it? That is your Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is the Borg. That is the only way that you are going to have your peace. War is constant. It is real. Do not come to me and say that I am full of anger and violence and I want violence and all this stuff. No, I am in touch with reality. You are fed an opiate. You are under the illusion that you can have peace or that we can work towards peace. The only way that you can work towards peace is when you sign up with Ray Kurzweil. When you say, yes, plug me into the Borg. I do not want free will anymore. I do not want to have the free will to go and kick my neighbor in the teeth just because I feel like it. You may not do that, but he may decide to do it to you. So what are you going to do? Are you going to get a protest sign? That isn't going to stop him from doing that if he wants to. Are you going to write your congressman? That isn't going to stop him from doing that if he wants to. No, the only way that you can prevent somebody from hurting you is to be a warrior and to prepare for violence. Because that is the universe. That is the universe of free will. You cannot have peace so long as you have free will. So prepare for warfare. Study warfare. What do? You are pacified. You sit in front of the television. You say we should write our congressman. You say we should make a cardboard sign. You are not in touch with reality. I have no interest in what you have to say. You are cattle. You are zombies. You are a single-celled organism. Admit that you are a slave because you want to be a slave, because you are a masochist. You are apathetic. You are weak. You are not going to challenge the people that stomp our people into the ground, that poison our people. You are not going to do anything about them because you are fed an opiate. You are under an illusion. You are programmed. If you are a warrior, you will man up and come to terms with this reality. If somebody wants to hurt you, they will hurt you. If they really desire to do so. The only way that you can prevent them from doing that is to have a willingness to hurt them back.
Good, I hope you're all highly pissed off and think that that's completely wrong, which is good.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah, there's another very interesting article called Pacifism as a Pathology, and it talks a lot about the domestication of man and how we're all suffering to some extent from Stockholm Syndrome, which we start to actually relate to our captors and start to think that, well, they're not so bad, they might be actually doing it for my own good. But anyway, I wanted to play a very controversial and very dark and depressing opening film just to get you all in the right mood and welcome you all along. During my talk today, I'm going to take you through from this kind of battle zone, constant warfare, free will creates war mindset through to the kind of more peace and love, everything is okay, and I've got another video for the end as well to kind of bring everyone back together. I started Love Police 22 months ago because I lost my job in the financial crash of 2008, 2009, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. The only difference between me now and me then, apart from a few years, was then I didn't have balls, and now I've got balls, and I do what I do because, you know, I think someone has to go out there and say the things that we're all thinking. Someone has to go out there and, you know, fly the flag of resistance and protest. I know a lot of you guys within the Zeitgeist movement don't believe evil exists, and I like to make this very interactive. Could someone put their hand up if they don't believe evil exists? Okay, to the gentleman over there at the front, could you just tell me in like 2 or 3 sentences why you don't believe evil exists?
Because everyone does something for a reason. Evil is shutting your brain off too tired to understand the reason. So if you accept evil, you don't try to find anything else, right? And I want to find what's behind the evil.
Okay, would 10 aggressive men gang raping a 5-year-old girl be evil?
Why? Why would they do that?
For really dark kicks.
No. That's not a reason.
Yeah, I would find that repugnant, repulsive, but evil, if we look at a semantic point of view, comes from religion. And so what you're talking about is deeply aberrated behaviour. So it's human behaviour. Certain cultures might, I'm just saying hypothetically speaking, might see that as not necessarily a bad thing. But other cultures would say, no, that's absolutely a horrible thing. So it's relative. That's all the thing is. The problem with evil is it's a categorical statement.
And it's an absolute concept.
Okay.
But essentially, if I saw 10 guys doing that, I would be sick to my stomach and I would probably...
Absolutely. But on the flip side, if you guys don't believe in evil, do you believe in altruism and good?
I believe in altruism. I think in
No, I don't as well.
altruism, yes.
It's the same. We are, you see, like no one agrees here, and that's why we are different, because we don't need to agree to be like to be together. The thing is that I think that what I believe is that there's such thing called happiness, right? And that is subjective. So when you talk about evil,
Switch your fucking phone off.
when you talk about evil or good, they're all different sides of the same coin. They're exactly the same thing. So I don't believe in people doing something that they were not conditioned to. Either that, if I look at it as being good or bad, it doesn't matter. If it happens, it's real. What I think should happen, it's not real. What happens is real. So it doesn't matter if what I think, if I value it as good or bad, that doesn't change reality. So if something bad or good happens, I don't interpret it as being evil or saint or whatever the opposite of evil is, because that would mean that people were not conditioned to do that. And people can be conditioned to do evil things or good things. It's all about the condition.
No, I'm glad you raised these points. What I'm going to do by the end of my talk is show how you and I are actually in total agreement, and it's actually just a difference in semantics and wording towards certain things, ultimately. Because one thing I think we can both agree on, and I'm not going to speak for you, but I will because I'm louder here and I'm taller, above on stage for you, is that, some people will choose, even though they have perhaps a full cognitive ability to decide whether something is hurtful to other human beings or whether something's not or beneficial, and they will choose to do the one which is hurtful to other people. But yes, so I think the way we can kind of come together is that is a rational choice they are making.
Because of their experience,
why?
Not because of some inherent kind of like...
I'll tell you why. It's because of the machine.
There you go.
It is. No, what it is
Don't blame them.
yeah, because I do believe in this video game called Human 3D Conscious Experience, whatever, there is the duality illusion. And for us, I think what we are, I think there is a ghost and there is a machine. The machine is our interaction with the kind of 3D physical world. And that machine, because it's run by genetics, whenever we see an act of evil which is beneficial for one small group of people against another, that is perfectly rational for those genes to want to say a kind of male lion takes over a pride of lions and he will kill the children of the female lions so that they can dedicate their life to his children. That's a perfectly rational thing, but we don't ever call lions evil, exactly. But the reason why I believe we do call human beings evil at times when we can say something is an evil act is because that ghost in the machine, that which is pure sentience, which science I don't believe will ever be able to tell us where does that ghost come from? How do those tiny electrical impulses create the ghost? And because we are sentient, I think we can basically give someone we kind of raise them as another sentience, and then we judge them by our action, by our kind of morals rather than theirs, because I know what you said, that it might be a different culture where they will say, oh, 10 guys raping a little girl, that's maybe not so, yeah, but we can imagine it as a thought experiment. I think an anthropologist, or in fact any human being who goes to that culture and observes and goes, well, you know, it's their culture, what am I going to do? I'm not going to get involved in the kind of young girl rape tribe of Western Scotland or whatever it is. Sorry, I'm allowed to say that because I'm Scottish. So I think if we are something other than purely material, if there is something ephemeral, something esoteric there, we are able to put that kind of moral label onto something being evil, because what we're doing is judging them by our standards, which is the only thing we have. So coming back to my example, the anthropologist turns up at the village where the 10 guys are raping a little girl. Sorry to keep saying that. I think by us saying to those people, saying, oh, no, that's not evil, because within their culture that's, you know, something else, it's maybe neutral. I think what we're doing is a gross insult to the consciousness of those people. By us saying that, by us remaining completely detached, and maybe judging them by their own primitive standards, rather than the ones we've arrived at through thousands of years of thinking and philosophy, I think is a gross insult to them. We're saying, oh well, to them it might not be evil, but to us it's evil.
So what you're talking about is moral relativism.
Yeah, which I don't believe in.
No, and if, look, for instance,
A is A.
so if you can turn
2 + 2 is 5.
Yeah. And if you can turn.
Whoa!
Ole.
So yeah.
People
You might see this highly aberrated form of behaviour, and it might be the cultural norm for that group. But yes, it isn't. Well done.
There we go.
So you may see this aberrated form, and yes, I think there should be a point where you should intervene, because ultimately the victim of that crime, that act, you've got to think about that person too. So yes, we should, if anybody is suffering, we should do something to stop that suffering. And yes, you're right in that respect. But that's an extreme example you give. There are certain behaviours that certain groups, cultures do that other groups find repugnant. So this is where the line we need to decide.
No, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's what I'm going to climax with. So you've taken away my thunder now. But no. All right. The reason why I do love police activism, and this I'm going to contradict myself at the end of this speech, because ultimately everything's fine and there's no need to actually do anything. And this is a strange paradox we live in. But this is also the duality which I was talking about. Everything at the same moment is the most important thing you could possibly do, but it's also at the exact same moment the most meaningless, absurd, pointless, tiny act at the exact same time. And it's a good way to stay humble as well. You realize that everything you do is that. But the way I see this human experience, and it's my very subjective experience, is that we are, and I know you guys will like this metaphor, we are actually playing a consciousness sentience video game in this reality. Science, advanced science, is now even looking and saying, like, they're going down to the smallest particles and realizing that it's just potentiality, it's just fuzz, it's just holographic, there's nothing actually there. And you all know that kind of light particle versus wave that goes through the double slit experiment. I mean, what's going on there? Like, all this we see, like, this is very easily could be described as a simulation using the most advanced computers in the world to make you think that everything you're interacting with is actually physical and real, where it's actually not. It's just ideas. And this is why I think a lot of people have this kind of worry about perhaps the zeitgeist movement, is that what I've just described, although I was using scientific metaphors, for a lot of people it does feel like something very spiritual, something very esoteric. And I think what a lot of people worry about is that how do we turn this world around, which is using technology and destroying the planet, destroying us, poisoning us, basically raping the entire planet with the kind of civilized, advanced societies we have. How do we use that same technology to do something good? And I don't know if you guys have seen the interview I did with Jacques Fresco.
Yes.
Yeah. He's a great guy. He gave a good hug as well for a 94-year-old. A little bit of a dandruff problem. Sorry, Jacques, but that's all right. I'm joking. He's a lovely guy. I shouldn't have actually made that joke. I'm nervous. No, I'm joking. But Jacques and I both agreed that the only way the Venus project can possibly be implemented in the world is after a gigantic crash of this reality, of this video game which we're all playing. And in my more kind of light-hearted moments, I'm glad that we've deviated from the path of nature for this long, because we had to kind of go away from living in harmony with nature to find out what living in harmony with nature actually is. Because when you're living in harmony with nature, you're blind to it. You're just part of the kind of fabric of the forest and so forth. You're probably not that aware that it's a good or an evil thing. So I'm glad that we've gone down this advanced technological path, although many people would argue that it's not actually that advanced as a technological path. Because it's allowed us to see... No problem. No problem. What we're trying to see is that we've gone down this hyper-advanced technological path. What is the missing ingredient? Because I just look at space-time and we're all here right now. And how come the first time round we couldn't have done it properly if technology is perhaps an answer? But I think one way, and this is why, I don't necessarily advocate the Venus Project or the Zeitgeist movement, but I'm also not against you guys. I actually want you guys to succeed, and I'll tell you why in a second. And I think it's very important. Is that everyone is here because you all know something is very strange with the world, and you're all seekers like I am, and you're seeking the truth, and you feel that a version of the future would be more closely related to your perfect idealization of truth in terms of living, and that's what I feel. And the way I keep having, not visions, I'm not a crazy person, but I keep having imaginations of the future possibly existing, and I think you guys can agree, hopefully, is that I would like most of humanity to return to indigenous, tribal, in harmony with nature living. But also, you cannot turn back the clock of technological advancement, which is the three-dimensional physical footprint of consciousness of man, from clocks to iPhones to ships to space shuttles to the internet. And I love the internet. Everything I do is on the internet. So, I'm going to go on a massive tangent and come back to my idea about how this is a video game. The way I see this civilization, I think it's going to crash as it is now, because it's non-sustainable, and I think we all kind of pretty much, maybe not agree, but we say that there is a strong possibility of collapse. And it's only after that I think the world can return to kind of unpolluted. And I'm not a climate change guy, I'm not here saying we're destroying the atmosphere, but we're doing very visible things to rivers, to forests, to the jungle, to indigenous people. We're destroying everything. And the only hope I see for the future is perhaps if you guys succeed in getting a few hyper-technologically advanced, super efficient, harmonious cities going, to kind of fly the flag of technological progress. And we don't need to rip apart the entire planet to have these cities. And I've spoken to Jacques. Yeah! And I've spoken to Jacques at length about this, also off camera, which I didn't put in the video. And yeah, I think that is perhaps the solution. And also, when you're living in a technologically advanced city, which works and it's hyper efficient, what better way then to kind of get away from it all, to have the perfect nature on your doorstep? And also, I'm also a bit selfish in this idea, because I am a caveman. I know I might look like I'm wearing 21st century clothes. Actually, they're mostly bought in the 90s, but anyway. I like to think that when I'm living in my hut and spearing my fish in the river and swinging on my vine, that if I fall and break my leg or my spine, that there will be a Venus Project, a hyper-advanced thing that will come flying in and repair me there and then and take me through and so forth. But that's my massive tangent. But anyway, the reason why we're able to foresee the future and imagine utopias and imagine better dawns for mankind is because we are sentient, we are conscious, we are able to think about the future. And it's that very ability to think about the future which has enslaved us, because small powerful groups of people who manage to convince others that they're in charge, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau said it very clearly, the true founder of civil society was the first caveman who put a little fence around his cave and found other cavemen stupid enough to believe him that that was his. And I've lost my train of thought. But
Ownership.
the what?
Ownership is not real.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. How can you own part of the planet? It's just ridiculous. But coming back to my idea about this could all perhaps be a simulation video game, we have no idea of knowing at what point in true space-time we are actually traveling. What I mean is, we look at computer technology right now and the ability to create virtual realities to such a very hyper-real extent, where I'd say probably 95% of the special effects you see in Hollywood movies now aren't actually real things exploding and happening. It's all done on the computer with green screen, blue screen, all interlaced, and so forth. What about 200 years in the future? You know how technological advancement doubles every 18 months? You'd be able to create an entire matrix, like the film The Matrix, and have characters in it who are perhaps AI, perhaps not, interacting as if it was real. And that's what we're doing. We're all interacting as if it's real.
Yes.
So we don't know. And anyone that tries to tell you the absolute truth, I think, is a charlatan and a liar and should be taken outside and shot. But, no, for sure. Someone say maybe not, no, kill them, kill them. But the interesting thing about being on a journey of philosophy, of political self-awakening, is that you go through all the kind of terrifying, fearful emotions about things are really terrible, I need to do something now, the world's going to end. And then, as you start to kind of wake up more, you start to realize that you have no evidence that anything that's actually happening around the world is actually real, and that you're actually here in this physical sense. And I'm sorry to sound like a crazy hippie, but that's how I feel. But so I operate on two levels. On one level, I do the whole love police activism, and I do feel in the moment, and this is like when I was talking about at the start about good and evil, I do feel in the moment that I am moved emotionally by things which I consider very good, and I'm also moved emotionally by things which I consider very bad. And it's almost as if that emotion is programmed into me, and that's what my video game subjective reality here is to go and lower fear and raise love with the love police. Thank you. It's taken its toll on me though. I mean, it's funny how sometimes to truly start to live, you can only truly start to live is when you realize that you're going to die. And we're all going to die, but I don't believe death is the end, because I didn't have any fear or worry before I was born, and all of a sudden I was born. Maybe it was amazing before I was born. So who knows where we go, but I started to have serious back problems about 2 years ago, and I don't think it spurned me to start doing the love police, but it's almost as if when I started feeling, and I'm only 30 and I've got really bad back, and there's a scale of mild, moderate and severe spinal arthritis, and I've got severe spinal arthritis, so it's taking its toll, but because it affects me every day, and I'm in this kind of pain all day, like I wake up and it's horrible pain all day, like it's only by going through that pain that I realize that I'm actually alive, and it's strange, and that's what makes me do the love police. But before I go off on one, I showed you a very dark video at the start, and I don't actually agree with the points on anything other than a video game superficial level, because I think we all know that if we were, to take a mainstream example, if we were in France during the Nazi invasion and occupation, I'd hope many of us here would join the French resistance, because that's what you do, because sometimes you cannot argue with people who do not consider you human. It's kind of like, can a battery chicken argue with the farmer when the farmer is going to have chicken for dinner? I don't think sometimes you can. So sometimes there is that conflict that happens, but again, it's on a superficial level, because ultimately, I think when the time comes, we all know what we need to do, and luckily we live in the Western world right now, and I'm able to go around the place, and I mean, I get arrested too often, which is annoying, but I get to say whatever I want and do the things I do and live the way I want without this kind of paramilitary fascist oppression attacking and killing me. But I would like to say that if that did happen, and let's not be arrogant to say we live in Europe, it's never going to happen. That's what the Germans were saying in the 20s and 30s. Oh no, we'll never have fascism. So it happens to civilized industrial countries. No. I almost knocked myself over there, but... And I think many of us can agree that America is turning into a very strange proto-fascist state right now. And that's the land of the free, the home of the brave. But as George Carlin says, the reason why it's called the American Dream is you have to be asleep to believe it. So I'd just like, before I show the video, just to say a massive thank you to everyone for giving me the opportunity to speak here, and thank you to Martin, and to Craig, who drove me all the way from Cambridge last night. If you guys like to have a good conversation, speak to Craig, he's got a lot of stuff to say. Yeah. But I started you off with a dark video, but truly I believe in love as the most powerful thing in the universe, because I'm naturally a lover and a hippie at heart. And I do a lot of stuff with the Love Police, and I found on the internet someone so much more talented who does it so much more better than me. So I'd like to end my talk by showing you Sexy Sax Man.